Hello friends, I am Uday Kandpal and I welcome you all to yet another lecture on NCERT Class 8 History Summary with Fact Elaboration by Uday Kandpal. So, the topic for today is British India Maps and Important Historical Events. So, let us start. So, the data source for this content is Wikipedia. So, first of all, we will talk about the important major events that took place between 1858 to 1857 to 1947. So 1 November 1858 to 21st March 1862, major events, legislation, public works were 1858 reorganization of the British Indian Army, contemporary and hereafter Indian Army. Then construction began in 1860. University of Bombay, University of Madras, University of Calcutta. Indian Penal Code passed into law in 1860. Upper Dua Famine of 1860 to 1861. Indian Council Act of 1861. Establishment of Archaeological Survey of India in 1861. James Wilson, financial member of the Council of India, reorganizes customs, imposes income tax, creates paper currency. Indian Police Act of 1861. Creation of Imperial Police, later known as the Indian Police Service. Presiding Viceroy was Viscount Canning during that time. Then 21 March 1862 to 20 November 1863. Viceroy dies prematurely in Dharamshala, and preceding Viceroy was Earl of Elgin. 12 January 1864 to 12 January 1869, Anglo-Bhutan Dual War of 1864 to 1865, Odisha Famine of 1866, Rajputana Famine of 1869, creation of Department of Irrigation, creation of Imperial Forestry Service in 1867, now the Indian Forest Service, Nicobar Island annexed and incorporated into 1869 in India. So the presiding Viceroy was Sir John Lawrence. So let's continue. 12 January 1869 to 8 February 1872, creation of Development of Agriculture, Ministry of Agriculture, major extension of railways, roads and canals, Indian Council Act of 1870, creation of Andaman and Nicobar Island as a chief commissionership, 1872, assassination of Lord Mayo in Andamans, presiding Viceroy was Earl of Mayo. 3 May 1872 to 12 April 1876, deaths in the Bihar famine in the 1873 to 74, prevented by import of rice from Burma. Gaikwad of Baroda dethroned from his government, dominions continued to a child ruler. Indian Council Act of 1874, visit of Prince of Wales, the future Edward VII in 1875-76, and presiding Viceroy was Lord Northbrook. 12 April 1876 to 8 June 1880, Balochistan established as a chief commissionership. Queen Victoria in absentia proclaimed the Empress of India at Delhi Darbar of 1877. Great famine of 1876 to 78, about 5.25 million dead, reduced relief offered at expense of rupees 8 crore. Creation of famine commissioned at 1878 to 80 under Sir Richard Strachey. Indian Forest Act of 1878, Second Anglo-Afghan War, presiding Viceroy was Lord Lytton. Then 8 June 1880, 13 December 1884, end of the Second Anglo-Afghan War, repeal of the Vernacular Press Act of 1878, compromise of the Ilbert Bill, local government acts extending the self-government from towns to country, University of Punjab established in Lahore in 1882, Famine Code promulgated in 1883 by the Government of India, creation of Education Commission, creation of indigenous schools, especially for Muslims, repeal of the import duties on the cotton and most of tariffs, railway extension. Presiding Viceroy was Marquis of Ripon. 13 December 1884 to 10 December 1888, passage of Bengal Tenancy Bill, Third Anglo-Burmese War, Joint Anglo-Russian Boundary Commission appointed by the Afghan frontier, Russian attack on the Afghans in Punch Day 1885, The Great Game in the Full Play, report of Public Services Commission 1886 to 87, creation of the Imperial Services, later the Indian Civil Services, and today the Indian Administrative Services. So it was created in 1886-87. University of Allahabad established in 1887. Queen's Victoria Jubilee 1887. The presiding viceroy was the Earl of Dufferin. Then 10 December 1888 to 11 October 1894, strengthening of North-West Frontier Province, creation of the Imperial Service Troops consisting of regiments contributed by the princely states, Gilgit Agency leased in 1899. British Parliament passes the Indian Councils Act of 1892, opening the Imperial Legislative Councils to Indians, evolution of the princely state of the Manipur and subsequent installment of ruler, high point of the Great Game, establishment of the Durand Line between the British India and Afghanistan, railways, roads and irrigation works began in Burma, border between Burma and Siam finished in 1893, fall of rupee resulting from a steady depreciation of the silver currency worldwide 1873 to 93, Indian Prisons Act of 1894, Marquis of Lansdowne was the Viceroy. 11 October 1894 to 6 January 1899, reorganization of Indian Army from presidency system to the four commands, Pamir Agreement 1895, Russia, The Chitral campaign 1895, Tirha campaign 1896 to 97, the Indian famine of 1896 to 97, beginning in Bundelkhand, bubonic plague in the Bombay 1896, bubonic plague in Calcutta 1898, riots in the wake of plague prevention measures, establishment of provincial legislation councils in Burma and Punjab, the formal new lieutenant governorship. So Earl of Elgin was the viceroy. Then was 6 January 1899 to 18 November 1995, creation of the Northwest Frontier Province, and under Chief Commissioner 1901, Indian famines of 1899 to 1900, return of bubonic plague, 1 million deaths, return Reform Act of 1899, Golden Reserve Fund Act created for India, Punjab Land Alienation Act, inauguration of the Department of Ministry of the Commerce and Industry, death of Queen Victoria, 1901, dedication of Victoria Memorial Hall called as the National Gallery of the Indian Antiquities, Art and History, coronation of Darbar in India, 1903, Edward VII, Essentia proclaimed the Emperor of India, Francis Young husband's British expedition to Tibet, 1903 to 1904, Northwestern provinces previously called seceded and conquered provinces, and the oath renamed United Provinces in 1904, the Organization of Indian University Act of 1904, systemization of preservation and restoration of ancient monuments by Archaeological Survey of India with the Indian Ancient Monument Preservation Act, inauguration of the Agricultural Banking with the Cooperative Credit Societies Act of 1904, partition of Bengal, new province of East Bengal and Assam under a lieutenant governor. Census of 1901 gives the total population at 294 million, including the 62 million in the princely states and 232 million in British India. About 1,70,000 are Europeans, 15 million men and 1 million women are literate. Of these school age, 25% of boys and 3% of the girls attend. There are 207 million Hindus and 63 million Muslims, along with the 9 million Buddhists in Burma, 3 million Christians, 2 million Sikhs, 1 million Jains, and 8.4 million who practice animism. So it was Lord Curzon of Kettlestone was the presiding viceroy. 18 November 1905 to 23 November 1910, creation of the Railway Board, Anglo-Russian Convention of 1907, Indian Councils Act of 1909, also known as the Minto-Morley Reforms, appointment of Indian Factories Commission in 1909, establishment of the Department of Education in 1910, now Ministry of Education, Earl of Minto, 23rd November 1910, 4th April 1916, visit of King George V and Queen Mary in 1911, commemoration 1911, commemoration of the Emperor and the Empress of India at Delhi Darbar. King George V announced the creation of the new city of New Delhi to replace Calcutta as the new capital of India. Indian High Courts Act of 1911, Indian Factories Act of 1911, construction of the New Delhi 1912 to 1929, World War I, Indian Army in the Western Front, Belgium 1914, German East Africa, Battle of Tonga 1914, Mesopotamia campaign, Battle of Satisphon 1915, Siege of Kut, Battle of Gallipoli 1915-16, Passage of Defense of India Act of 1915. So Earl of Hardinge of Penshurst was the preceding viceroy, and previously it was Lord Minto. Then 4 April 1916 to 2 April 1921, Indian Army in Mesopotamian campaign, fall of Baghdad, Sinai and Palestinian campaign, Battle of Megiddo, passage of Rowlatt Act, Government of India Act of 1919, Montagu Transport Reforms, then Jallianwala Bagh Massacre 1919, Third Anglo-Afghan War 1919, University of Rangoon, established in 1920, Lord Chelmsford was the preceding viceroy. 2 April 1921 to 3 April 1926, University of Delhi established in 1922, Indian Workers' Compensation Act of 1923, Earl of Reading. 3 April 1926 to 18 April 1931, Indian Trade Unions Act of 1926, Indian Forest Act of 1927, appointment of Royal Commission of Indian Labour, Indian Constitutional Roundtable Conferences, London 1930 to 32, Gandhi Irving Pact of 1931, Lord Irving was the presiding viceroy. 18 April 1931 to 18 April 1936, New Delhi inaugurated as the capital of India, 1931, Indian Workmen Compensation Act of 1933, Indian Factories Act of 1934, Royal Indian Air Force was created in 1932, Indian Military Academy established in 1932, Government of India Act 1935, creation of Reserve Bank of India, Earl of Wellington was the presiding viceroy. So 18 April 1936 to 1 October 1943, Indian Payment of Wages Act. 1936, Burma administered independently after 1937 with the creation of new cabinet position, Secretary of State for India, with the Burmese office separated from of the Indian office. Indian Provincial Act of 1937, Cripps Mission to India 1942, Indian Army in Mediterranean, Middle East and African theaters of World War II, North African Campaign, Operation Compass, Operation Crusader, First Battle of El Alamein, Second Battle of Al Alamein, East African Campaign 1940, Anglo-Iraqi War 1941, Syria-Lebanon Campaign 1941, Anglo-Soviet invasion of Iran 1941, Indian Army in the Battle of Hong Kong, Battle of Malaya, Battle of Singapore, Burma Campaign of World War II begins in 1942. Marquis of Lilithgow was the presiding viceroy. 1 October 1943 to 21 October 1947, Indian Army becomes at 2.5 million men, the largest all-volunteer force in the history. World War II, Burmese Campaign 1943 to 45, Battle of Kohima, Battle of Imphal, Bengal Famine of 1943, Indian Army in the Italian Campaign, Battle of Monte Cassino, British Labour Party wins the UK general election of 1945 with the Clement of Attlee becoming the Prime Minister. 1946 Cabinet Mission to India, Indian elections of 1946, Viscount of Wavell was the presiding viceroy. 21 February 1947 to 15 August 1947, Indian Independence Act of 1947 of the British Parliament enacted on 18 July 1947, Radcliffe Award August 1947, Partition of India August 1947, Indian Office and Position of Secretary of State for India abolished, ministerial responsibility within the United Kingdom and British relations with India and Pakistan transferred to the Commonwealth Relations Office. Viscount Mountbatten of Burma was the presiding viceroy. So let's talk about the timeline of the Indian freedom struggle. 1875, Swami Dayanand establishes the Arya Samaj to revive Hinduism within the Vedic traditions. 1876, Queen Victoria assumes the title Empress of India. 1883, Anandi Gopal Joshi, perhaps the first Indian woman in America, arrives in the New York to attend the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania. 1885, the first Indian National Congress meets in Bombay. Gokubai 1888, Gokubai Karmakar to begin studying in the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania. 1898, the Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak demands the self-rule. Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. 1900, India's tea exports to Britain reaches 137 million pound per year. 1901, Mohandas Gandhi visits India from South Africa to attend the meeting of Indian National Congress. 1905, partition of Bengal. 1905, Swadeshi campaign and the boycott of British goods. 1906, All India Muslim League established in Dhaka. 1911, Indian capital moved from Calcutta to Delhi. Then in 1913, Rabindranath Tagore receives the Nobel Prize for Literature. 1915, Mohandas Gandhi returns to India and establishes Satyagraha Ashram. 1917, Gandhi focuses on Sabarmati Ashram, Jallianwala Bagh massacre in Amritsar. 1919, 1920, Mohandas Gandhi begins Satyagraha campaign. 1922, Gandhi arrested for sedition and sentenced to a 6-year prison term. 1924, Gandhi released from prison on medical grounds. 1924, Gandhi undertakes a 21-day fast for Hindu-Muslim unity following the Kohat riots. 1929, Mother Teresa arrives in Calcutta. 1929, Jawaharlal Nehru is elected president of the Indian National Congress. 1930, Indian National Congress calls for Purna Swaraj, complete self-rule. 1931, Indian National Congress adopts all chakra for the center of the flag. 1942, Quit India resolution passes. All India Congress Committee and civil disobedience across the India begins. 1944, Kasturba Gandhi, affectionately called Ba, passes away. August 15, 1947, India declared independent. So source is the internet. Now freedom struggle timeline continued. 18 on this is data source is Wikipedia. 1805, formation of Indian National Congress. First session held at Bombay on 28 December, attended by 72 delegates. Lord Randolph Churchill became Secretary of State for India. 1905, partition of Bengal announced by Curzon. 1906, British India officially adopts the Indian Standard Time. Mahatma Gandhi coins the term Satyagraha to characterize the non-violence movement in India, South Africa. 1907, Congress split at the Surat session, where the Congress split into the two parts of moderates and extremists. Lala Lajpat Rai and Ranjit Singh deported to Mandalay following the riots in the Canal colony of Punjab. Muslim League founded at Dhaka by Agra Khan and the Nawab of Dhaka by the Aga Khan and the Nawab of Dhaka and Nawab of Moshi ul Mulk. 1908, Khudiram Bose was executed. Tilak sentenced to 6 years imprisonment on charges of sedition. 1911, capital of India was shifted from Calcutta to Delhi. 1912, bomb thrown on Lord Lady Harding in the Chandni Chowk, Delhi by Rashperi Bose and Sachin Sanyal. 1913, Ghadar Party formed at San Francisco to organize rebellion in India to overthrow the British rule. 1914, the World War started. 1915, returning of Mahatma Gandhi from South Africa. 1916, Gandhiji formed the Sabarmati Ashram at Ahmedabad. A Home Rule League formed by Tilak and its headquarters at Pune, Indian Home Rule League of India. Another Home Rule League started by Annie Besant. Foundation of Banaras Hindu University by Madan Mohan Malviya, Lucknow, Part 1917. Mahatma Gandhi launches the Champaran Satyagraha. Montague, Secretary of State for India, declares the goal of British government in India is the introduction of responsible government. 1918. First of all, India Depressed Class Conference was held. Rowlatt Sedition Committee submits its report. Rowlatt Bill introduced in February 16, 1919. 1919 Anti-Rowlatt Satyagraha. M.K. Gandhi started campaign against the Rowlatt Bill and set up the Satyagraha Sabha 24 February AD 1919 at Bombay. During this agitation, M.K. Gandhi became famous, and it is my firm belief that we shall obtain salvation only through the suffering and not by reforms dropping to us from the English they used to brute peaceful force. Jallianwala Bagh tragedy and Great Amritsar massacre. Montagu Chelmsford reforms of the Government of India Act 1919 was announced. 1920 First meeting of All India Trade Union AITUC held at the Bombay presided over Lala Lajpat Rai. Indian National Congress adopts the non-cooperation resolution. 1921 Permanent Advisory Council of Princes inaugurated. Council of State and Legislative Assembly inaugurated. The Prince of Wales, later King Edward VIII, arrives in India. Upon his arrival in the Bombay, there is a widespread agitation. He was greeted with empty retreats. The agitation was non-violent. T.K. Madhavan met Mahatma Gandhi at Tirunelveli to discuss the VIII Satyagraha, a struggle against untouchability in the Hindu society. 1922 Chauri Chaura incident, which led to the suspension of the non-cooperation movement. The second Mopla uprising, Malabar Coast, Kerala. Vishwabharati University started by Rabindranath Tagore. 1923 Swarajist Party formed by Motilal Nehru and others. 1925 Death of Deshbandhu Chitranjan Das, Kakori conspiracy case by revolutionaries. 1927 Appointment of the Simon Commission. 1928 Nehru Report for a New Constitution of India. 1929 All Party Muslim Conference formulates the 14 points under the leadership of Jinnah Bhagat Singh and Batukweshwar Dutt. Drop bomb in the Central Legislative Assembly to protest against the Public Safety Bill. Jatin Das dies in Jan after 64 days of fast. Lord Irwin's announcement that goal of British policy in India was the grant of dominion status. Lahore session of the Congress under Jawaharlal Nehru adopts the goal of complete independence and Purna Swaraj for India. 1930 Jawaharlal Nehru hoists the tricolor of India on the banks of Ravi in Lahore. First Independence Day observed. Working Committee of INC meets at Sabarmati and passed the civil disobedience movement with its epic Dandi March. Mahatma Gandhi launches the civil disobedience movement and its epic Dandi March. Then first roundtable conference begins in London to consider the report of Simon Commission for future constitutional setup in India. 1931 Gandhi Irwin Pact signed a civil disobedience movement suspended. Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev and Rajguru executed in Lahore case. And second roundtable conference begins. Mahatma Gandhi arrives in London to attend it. 1932 British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald announces the communal awards giving separate electorate to Harijans get reserved seats in the place of separate electorate. Gandhi's fast unto death. Pune Pact signed by which Harijans get reserved seats in the place of the separate electorate. Third roundtable conference begins at London. 1935 Government of India Act passed. 1937 election held in the India against under the Act of 1935. The Indian National Congress forms the minister in 7 provinces. 1938 Haripuran session of the Indian National Congress. Subhash Chandra Bose elected the Congress president. 1939 Tripuri session of the Indian National Congress. Subhash Chandra Bose resigns the presidency of Indian National Congress. Second World War begins. Viceroy declares India is true at war. Congress ministries in the provinces resigned against the war policy of the British government. Muslim League observes the resignation of Congress ministries as Deliverance Day. 1940 Lahore session of the Muslim League passes the Pakistan resolution. Viceroy Lilith announces the August offer. Congress launches the individual Satyagraha movement. 1941 Death of Rabindranath Tagore. Subhash Chandra Bose escaped from India to Germany. Okay, 1942 Churchill announces the Cripps Mission. The Cripps Mission's proposal are rejected by the Congress. Quit India resolution was passed by the Bombay session of the AICC, which led to the start of the historical civil disobedience movement across India. Jawaharlal Nehru daughter Indira marries a Parsi lawyer under the insurgent Firoz Gandhi against her father's wishes. Indian leader Mohandas Gandhi is arrested in the Bombay by British forces. Newly married couple Indira Gandhi and Firoz Gandhi are arrested for the participation in the Quit India movement. Hurricane and flooding in Bombay, 40,000 dead. Indian National Army was armed forces formed by the Indian nationalist Mohan Singh in the Southeast Asia during the World War II. 1943 Subhash Chandra Bose takes over the leadership of Indian National Congress and proclaims the formation of the Provisional Government of Free India at Singapore. Karachi session of the Muslim League adopts the slogan of divide and quit. Japanese attack the port of Kolkata. Kushal Kanwar, Indian National Congress president of the Golaghat, first martyr of the Quit Indian movement. 1944 VIII calls the Shimla conferences in a bid to form the Executive Council of the Indian political leaders. 1946 Royal Air Force mutiny of 1946 of the British India Air Force units. British Prime Minister Attlee announces the cabinet mission. VIII invites Nehru to form an interim government. First session of the Constituent Assembly. Nehru elected a leader of Congress Party. Constituent Assembly for India meets for the first time. 1947, British Prime Minister Attlee declares that the British government would leave India by June 1948. Lord Mountbatten, last Viceroy and Governor General of India, is sworn in. Mountbatten plan for the partition of India was announced. Indian Independence Bill introduced in the House of Commons and passed by the British Parliament on July 18, 1947. War breaks out between the India and Pakistan administered Kashmir forces in Kashmir. Junagadh joins the Dominion of India. Air India got international. India got independence. Jawaharlal Nehru became the first Prime Minister of India and unfurls the Indian tricolour on the ramparts of the Red Fort, symbolically marking the end of the British colonial rule. So this is the Indian Empire under the British Raj. You can see this is what we today call as the Akhand Bharat. Here you can see Balochistan and Pakistan, and here you can see Myanmar and Nepal as a part of India, and the Kashmir also a part of India. You can also see that Ceylon or Sri Lanka is closely attached to India, with Andaman, Nicobar, and Lakshadweep Island, or the Lakshadweep, which we now know as also a part of India. We can also see that there is Tibet beyond, which is not a part of India or China at that point of time, but now it is the part of China as per as the claim of the Chinese government. So hope you learned a lot about competitive exam from my video. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.